Welcome back, guys, to video number 2. Video number 2 is going to cover these organelles that store, clean up, and support. Video number 1, if you missed it, covered the nucleus. Some of y'all got that in class, so I don't blame you for skipping it. But this should be new information for everybody. So turn to the right part of your guided notes. We're going to start on question number 8 and get ready to write. We're going to start off with vesicles. Vesicles' job is to transport. There we go. All right, I found my pen. So transport, most important. Think of it as the car of the cell. If I was to compare the cell to a city, which you can't do, this would definitely be the cars, the 18-wheelers moving all around the cell. They have things inside of them, usually proteins. And the job of the vesicle is to get the proteins from point A to point B. Okay, so very straightforward. Think about in your analogy what moves things, what causes movement from here to there in whatever you're comparing it to. Now, vacuoles, their job is to store. They can store all sorts of different stuff. Most of the time, I'd say the most important is to store water, because everybody needs water. They can also store food like sugars, pigments. Vacuoles are usually what give flowers their color. Picture this being filled with red pigment. And then sometimes, especially in plants, they store toxins. When you eat a poisonous plant, you break open the vacuole and all the poison leaks out, and that's what's usually not very healthy. In fact, the largest vacuole is called a central vacuole. Central vacuoles are only in plant cells. Okay? And it stores all sorts of things for the plants. Look at this. I forgot this was here. So, yep, you can see plants have a central vacuole. It is huge. It takes up most, in this case, most is 90% of the plant cell. It just fills all of it up. But that is a great place to store water. Okay? So that's the storage. That's also the movement. Last one, lysosomes. Lysosomes are all about digestion. They are the cell stomach. So it does break down. When the cell eats something, it all gets broken down. You can read the little comic over here, it's kind of cute. Into individual particles. Basically, it takes polymers, remember that, and turns them into monomers, most of which will get used for energy. Okay? So here's an interesting question. Going back to what you learned in that last unit, if we're doing breakdown, is that a dehydration polymerization reaction, or is that a hydrolysis reaction? You've learned this, guarantee it. You knew it at one point, and hopefully you've circled hydrolysis. Because remember, lysis equals break. We're going to see that ending a few more times, so it's a good one to learn. Anytime you see lysis, it means that something is breaking apart. In this case, the food we eat. Final organelle in this section is the cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton's pretty easy to remember because it involves the word skeleton. And just like your skeleton helps support you, it makes you three-dimensional and not a puddle on the floor, and it helps in movement. So the cytoskeleton does for the cell what our skeleton does for our body. And you can see the cytoskeleton in this picture is all the yellow lines. It looks kind of like cell bones that fill up the cell and support it. Okay? There's two different filaments that make up the cytoskeleton, or two different fibers. Think of it like two different types of bones. We have big bones, The big bones are called microtubules. Microtubules are very thick. That's why I call them big. And they have two functions. They help transport vesicles, so that is interior movement, and they make up cilia and flagella, which is exterior movement. One moves things in the cells, the other moves the whole cell. Okay? I don't know. Oh, look at the video is going to work at me. Aha! So this is like a video in a video. It's Inception. Okay. So this video, this thing down here, this is the microtubule. Well, it went away. But you can see it here. That's the microtubule. And this is the vesicle. Remember the transport bubble? And you can see it moving in the cell. So the vesicle is being hauled around. Right? This is the interior. Come back. This is the interior movement in the cell. Microtubules are also responsible for exterior movement. So on this side, hang on, exterior. On this side you see cilia. This is a paramecium, and you can see the tiny hairs he uses to swim. Those hairs are made of microtubules. This little guy is called a chlamydomonas. I am not going to spell that, but he has flagella. The flagella is this long whip-like thing helping him swim. Both the flagella and the cilia are microtubules. The other side, the not microtubule, so these are the tiny ones, microtubule big, microfilaments tiny, very thin, very small. They cause the cytoplasm to move. That's all they do. They're so tiny, they only have one job. It's called cytoplasmic flow. And of course I have videos. So if you watch closely, you'll see all the cytoplasm, all the parts inside this amoeba are moving around. They're being pushed by the microfilaments. And remember I said microtubules are big? Look at how thick they are. Look at how thin, how tiny the microfilaments are. So we have small cytoskeleton and we have big cytoskeleton. Both have an important job to do. Okay, one question for review. We got 3 organelles in this: the vacuoles, the cytoskeleton, and the lysosomes. One of those was in charge of storage, one was in charge of cleaning up, and one was in charge of support. So guys, I want you to do some matching here. We just did the cytoskeleton. So which one's the cytoskeleton? Store, clean up, or your skeleton supports you? Cytoskeleton is here. We started with the vesicle. The vesicle, remember, moves things around, and then the vacuole stores. And then finally, anybody remember the cleanup vesicle? This was the one in the middle. Cleanup vesicle, I'll give you a hint, L. And hopefully you filled it out and remembered. Lysosome. Okay, so that's question 13 in your notes right there, which finishes out this section. That's this done. Next video, building proteins. See you there.